I just said about what was going on in the Justice League Europe title. Um, I mean, really, in reading that book, there were so many times where Captain Am would raise an eyebrow or just give a look of disgust or contempt towards his teammates because they were just bungling up, whether it be in the embassy or out on the field or at some other public event. It really seemed like Captain Adam most enjoyed his time as leader of the JLE during those times when the JLA would pop in for a visit, and it allowed for Captain Adam and Martian Manhunter to have a venting session with each other. But there was so much more to that with Captain Adam. Captain Adam, of course, started out in the Charlton line of comics and then was brought into the DCU at the time of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And Captain Adam's history went through, I'd say, a pretty significant revamp in the post-crisis period. In the post-crisis timeline, Captain Nathaniel Adam was framed for a crime he did not commit, and he was sentenced to military prison. And it was a corrupt General Eiling who approached Captain Adam and offered him the chance to have his record expunged, to receive a full presidential pardon in exchange for taking part in a top secret experiment involving quantum mechanics. And so the former military captain agreed to this, hoping that this would be his chance to get his freedom and to see his wife and his young children again. And the experiment did not go well. It appeared that Nathaniel Adam was completely obliterated when in fact he was shot forward 20 years in time to what was then our present day. And when he emerged in our present day, he found that he had been significantly altered physically. And he had to learn to take on fully human appearance again. But normally he now looked like he was covered in this shiny silver metallic alloy, and he now had these nuclear-based powers. And what made it really hard for Captain Adam was that not only was he a man out of time, but he found that after he had been declared dead, General Eiling wined and dined Nathaniel's quote-unquote widow, eventually married her, and adopted Nathaniel's kids. And so this gave Nathaniel quite the chip on the shoulder. He was found by the U.S. government, taken in and recruited to be a government agent. And he would join Justice League International and become the leader of the JLE, but was all under the pretense of him being just another metahuman. In other words, he had to keep his government connections a secret, and when it came out, there was some fallout from the revelation, but Captain Adam was taken in, and he was allowed to remain on the Justice League Europe, this time free of any government connections. But certainly by 1991, Nathaniel Adam, codenamed Captain Adam, was a very resentful person. He just had a lot of anger about what had happened to him 20 years in the past. He was very angry with what was going on in the present day. And so, given what was going on in his solo title and the Justice League Europe book, made complete sense for Captain Adam to be revealed as the one who became the monarch. So, what happened then? It turns out DC had 900 number back in the Copper Age. I guess it was a hotline where you could call in for different news, different teasers about upcoming DC Comics and events. And sadly, a DC staffer leaked the news via this 900 number that Captain Atom would become the Monarch in the closing chapter of Armageddon 2001. And now, a couple things to keep in mind, folks. Back in 1991, comics companies were not in the habit of intentionally leaking information about upcoming issues or storylines. This wasn't like Marvel intentionally leaking details about the death of Captain America, or DC intentionally leaking the fact that Damian Wayne was going to die in an upcoming Robin R.I.P. storyline. This was completely accidental. This information was not supposed to be put out there. Also, we need to keep in mind that in 1991, the World Wide Web was just in its infancy. It was something that was just about to start rolling out. And certainly the internet was not a widespread household thing until the end of the decade. But word about the leaked ending to Armageddon 2001 spread pretty quickly, and I can only imagine how much greater the damage control for DC would have been if the internet had been what it is today back in 1991. Now, looking back on this, one could say, you know what DC should have done? They should have just come up with a cover story that they did this on purpose and said, okay, well, that's okay that you know the reveal. That's okay that you know that Captain Atom is going to become the Monarch. But hey, you've got to pick up the issue and you've got to see what exactly happens. Why does Captain Atom become the Monarch? You won't believe your eyes. Folks, you've got to go out and get this issue. I mean, that's how Death of Captain America and Robin R.I.P. were presented in their respective leaks to the mass media in the 2000s. But such was not done here. Rather, DC was left with the proverbial egg on its face, and so a rather hasty decision was made to come up with a new ending to the storyline. And this was a very last-minute ending, folks, because all of these annuals had been written in advance. They all came out on time. There's no way to recall any of these annuals, particularly the Hawk and Dove annual. They were out there. And so, whereas Archie Goodwin had written the first chapter of Armageddon 2001, it will be up to Denny O'Neil to write issue number 2 of Armageddon 2001. Of course, Denny O'Neil being the Jeff Johns of DC's Bronze Age. Denny O'Neil, something of a cleanup guy, you could say. He was part of the team that came in and scrapped Gerard Jones's original plan for Emerald Twilight and replaced it with the 3-parter in which Hal Jordan became Parallax and Kyle Rayner became Green Lantern. That was another late change in the series. And just interesting that was O'Neil whose hands were on both of these stories. I kind of wonder whether Mr. Goodwin had penned the second issue and was then asked to change the story. And I wonder if Mr. Goodwin, after hearing what was required, said, no, I told my story and it's a good story. If you want to change this, you get somebody else. Because it does seem odd to me that some of Mr. Goodwin's caliber would write the first chapter, but not the second. I tried looking online to see if I could get a concrete answer to this, and at this point I couldn't find anything. And sadly, Mr. Goodwin passed away a number of years ago. But just something to keep in mind for part 3 of episode 129, as I give a synopsis of Armageddon 2001, Chapter 2. In addition to synopsizing this closing chapter, I'm going to talk about the fan reaction to the issue. I'm also going to talk about the ongoing fallout from the leak, the last-minute changes, and fans' reaction. So I'll be talking about things like Armageddon Alien Agenda, Armageddon Inferno. I'll be talking about the general theme of rehabilitation in DC Comics. There was certainly a lot of character rehab that was going on in Zero Hour and even past, going right into the 2000s as it related to two of the principal characters from the Armageddon event. And then I'll be closing with my thoughts on whether Armageddon 2001 deserves the harsh criticism that it has received over the years. I'll be talking about whether it's an event which should be reviled or it may be celebrated. So stay tuned for part 3. I think that should do it for my look at the Armageddon 2001 event. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I've enjoyed putting it together. If you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at comicsandhistory@gmail.com, or you can head on over to the Facebook page, click like so that you can follow upcoming show releases. All right, my friends and listeners, until another 14 days have come and gone, this class is dismissed.